Welcome back, Tribe. I have an episode here recommended by you guys called How Modern Feminism Scammed a Generation of Women by Finding Sky. First time seeing this channel.
1 second, feminism is demonizing men for objectifying women, and in the next, it's encouraging girls to sell their body on OnlyFans so that men can objectify them. I mean, which is it? Are you sexually empowered, or are you a victim of oppression? I used to consider myself a feminist until I realized that women were using it as a means to justify going out like this and then complaining about being called hot. Shorty, have you seen your own ass? I swear to God, women are the only ones that can spend 2 hours doing their makeup and picking out an outfit and then still say they don't want to be judged on their appearance. Girl, you literally pulled up your leggings to your third rib and gave yourself the ultimate wedgie. We know you didn't dress like this for you. When you look at the actual definition of feminism, all it is supporting women having access to equal
Are the younger generations becoming more based? What's going on?
rights. I'm not going to sit here and call myself an anti-feminist as someone who agrees with the core definition of feminism. But the problem is that the word has evolved to mean something very different. It's not just about women's rights anymore. There are other ideological strings attached. A major concept of modern feminism has been encouraging sexual liberation. This was started partly due to the double standard around sexuality for men and women. When a man frequently engages in casual sex, he's considered a stud, but when a girl does it, she's considered a slut. Sexual promiscuity leads to less satisfaction in relationships for both genders. Just because it's more socially acceptable for a guy to have casual sex doesn't mean women should be trying to match that expectation by normalizing it. Two wrongs don't make a right, and promoting a destructive behavior under the marketable guise of sexual liberation is abhorrent. It's so interesting how women constantly complain about how shallow and objectifying their relationships with men are, but then promote hookup culture, which directly encourages this exact transactional process. If feminism actually cared about women as much as it claims to, the movement would be encouraging them to be more selective about their sexual partners. It would be educating them about the negative effects of casual sex, since we know that it leads to decreased relationship satisfaction, loneliness, and depression. And look, I know people are going to take this as me trying to tell women how to live. That's not what I'm doing at all. You have all the freedom in the world to live exactly how you please. However, where I do have an issue is when a cultural movement is built on a foundation of lies. If you're going to have an entire movement, an entire ideology who claims its very goal is to benefit women, then encourage behavior that actually benefits women. At one point, this movement had genuinely pure intentions. It's the reason I have a right to vote and work and be educated. Feminism changed our lives as women for the better. So I'm sorry, but I can't help but feel like now it's doing the complete opposite. It's a common feminist position to be anti-tradwife. They insist that tradwives have some sort of Stockholm syndrome where they've fallen in love with their own oppression, claiming that it perpetuates traditional gender roles which have held women back. But I thought what actual feminism was supposed to be about was supporting women's freedom of choice. That means supporting them if they choose to climb the corporate ladder and supporting them if they choose to be a housewife. I thought the whole point of feminism was to respect a woman's freedom of choice, even if—
Wow, she's killing it right now. It's Schrodinger's feminism. A woman is simultaneously oppressed and empowered. Her actual status then depends on what the woman perceives as more advantageous in any given situation. Yeah, incredible. This is a great takedown.
if it's not the choice we would personally.
Could you imagine this conversation being had like, just 5 years ago when the woke train was like full steam ahead? This is nuts, dude. We're making real progress here.
Make. It was to recognize that there's not a one-size-fits-all lifestyle for women and that they should be able to prioritize what's important to them. Feminism will argue against this by saying that choices don't exist in a vacuum and society impacts your ability to make autonomous decisions, but you can make that exact same argument on the other side too. I could sit here and tell you that your decision to be a feminist is because social media has brainwashed you into believing that women are oppressed. So your choice to be a feminist isn't a real choice at all, but instead a reaction to your cultural environment. You can run in circles forever trying to make this argument against either side. That's because it's a dumb argument. Who are you to assume that another woman's choices aren't autonomous? The mere assumption of that is actually quite anti-feminist of you. This is the female version of Sneeko calling everyone who disagrees with him a bot. You're accusing grown women of being incapable of coming to their own autonomous conclusions. That means you're doing the exact thing that you constantly accuse men of doing to you. Maybe some women like traditional gender roles. That's cool. Let them do their thing just like you're allowed to do yours. I'm the most masculine woman I've ever met. I should be the first in line to be championing the end of traditional gender roles. But I'm not like this because I'm resisting the patriarchy. This is just a part of how I am. I like buying stocks, playing with boobs. I'm just a chill guy. WAP. Women against porn. Except in today's terms, it means wet-ass pussy. With modern feminism currently preaching sexual liberation, it may be surprising to learn that at one point it was the complete opposite. In the 1970s, anti-pornography was a growing part of feminism. And when you think about it, it actually makes perfect sense, because it's consistent with the core values of feminism, to demonize the objectification of women and stop the fetishization of sexual violence against them. We know that porn is overwhelmingly aggressive towards women. We also know that consumers are more likely to commit acts of sexual violence, less likely to intervene if they witness an assault, adult and more likely to objectify and dehumanize women. Corn is seriously bad for both genders, but especially women. So to see the feminist movement glorify platforms like OnlyFans and other adult content feels like a complete slap in the face. How can you possibly complain about how oppressive it is to be objectified and then objectify yourself for profit? I don't understand how modern feminists have come to this conclusion. Actually, that's a lie. I do understand. I completely understand, because it would go against the sexual liberation movement. It goes against the sex positivity narrative. But
saying this stuff 5 years ago would have branded you a misogynist. It's great to hear it from the female perspective, because now it's becoming, how many views is this? It's getting mainstream cover, 214,000 views 12 days ago. She's very sharp. She's completely deconstructing all the degeneracy that, let's just say, red pill or manosphere channels have been talking about, perfectly backed up with stats. It's just informationally dense, and she's hitting on all the sore spots that we've been talking about. It's great to finally see. This is the younger generation too, by the way. It's not somebody that was like through the ringer already in their 40s, 50s, and then they're so disconnected. We got the old people, right, trying to tell younger people, like, don't go the way I went, or here's how we failed you, or here's how much society's changed. I don't think all this change was too good. You know, all the progressive ideologies and stuff like that. We have overshot in a bunch of aspects in life, including family planning, marriage, relationships, all that stuff, dating culture. And those stats do bear out that these younger generations are actually more conservative than their predecessors. It's crazy to see. Bravo.
One honest look at the statistics and it's blatantly clear. There's nothing liberating or positive about this industry. So what happened? Wow. Why did the anti-corn feminist protests stop? This article explains it perfectly. Anti-corn feminists were labeled sex-negative in an era of feminism that was heavily influenced by liberalism. Individual choices, as opposed to mass liberation, became the forerunning feminist agenda. If that doesn't perfectly encapsulate the modern feminist movement, I don't know what does. The current movement wants all the ideals of feminism without having to sacrifice anything for it. The movement doesn't want to give up porn. It doesn't want to give up casual sex. That would be infringing.
And I don't know if she gets into it in the last 4 minutes, but this is the snake eating its own tail when they allowed men in women's bathrooms simply because you identify as a woman. That's the ultimate end stage of the entire movement failing on its own hypocrisy, is when they started allowing men that dress up as women to think they're women, play in women's sports, and go in women's bathrooms and completely eradicate all female spaces just by identifying as a woman. How insane is that? That's crazy.
On my personal freedoms, but maybe true liberation requires some personal sacrifice of those beloved freedoms. You can't eat a pound of cake every day and expect to lose weight. Your goals require a sacrifice. The issue of equal pay is another primary subject that feminists bring up. It's also probably the #1 most misrepresented topic in feminism. The gender pay gap does not exist because of the patriarchy oppressing women. The pay gap only exists because women are more likely to choose lower paying jobs. If you compare a man and a woman working at the same place, in the same position, with the same amount of experience, working the same amount of hours, the pay is exactly the same. But when you compare the average income of men versus women, there's obviously going to be a gap. This is because men choose careers like car mechanics and truck driving, whereas women choose careers like teaching and nursing. A quick comparison of these incomes, and it's easy to see why there's a pay gap. It's not misogyny that creates this gap, it's just preference. Women have all the freedom in the world to go be an automotive mechanic, just like men can become teachers, but that's not typically what each gender wants to do on average. So from the outside, when you show the statistic of the gender pay gap, everyone's jaw drops and jumps to conclusions about sexism, but if you just look a little deeper, it's easy to see why it's there. If you're a woman and you're unhappy with your salary as a teacher, go be a truck driver. It is actually that simple. Something I can't stand about the feminist movement, and really many other modern movements, is how evasive they are to taking responsibility. If you're not happy with your pay, change jobs. You don't have to make it a political movement. You don't have to find someone to blame. You can just do something to change your situation. You can't really talk about feminism without also talking about the red pill manosphere space. This is because they respond to one another culturally. The red pill purports that they have the solutions to these modern feminist problems. Spoiler alert, they don't. The red pill solution is extremely unrealistic for the majority of both men and women. The red pill has this idea that women need to just skip college and go back to being housewives, except that most of the men saying this would never be able to afford that lifestyle. Homie, you don't even have the career to be able to pay for the lifestyle of the woman that you want. The red pill will blame women for failing to fulfill their feminine roles without even recognizing that as men, they're failing just as badly at fulfilling their masculine ones. I really don't think that the red pill's idea of expecting men to be able to afford supporting an entire family on their one income is realistic at all. I think in theory, the traditional family dynamic is a great idea and would make very happy, healthy relationships. But in modern times, less than 1/4 of men will ever be financially capable of achieving such a feat. In today's
And there goes the dynamite. That's completely true. So I said the economic underpinnings are what makes this painful for both men and women. The ideal solution, or actually going back to traditional ideals, requires you to have an income multiples higher than the average earning wage in the United States. To keep your woman at home and to have multiple kids, that's the brutal reality. All of this, the masculine nature of women, aka they need to go out and get a job and work and provide for themselves. The effeminate nature of men today, not having jobs, not being able to provide for themselves, being stuck in a loop of like depression and consuming basically slop to keep themselves busy with their idle hands, is exactly exacerbated by the economic underpinnings I talked about. This is what I'm telling you. Red pill solution isn't applicable to every single man. True. But is it the ideal outcome that you'd like to have? Yes. That is why they say work hard, get your money up, get fit, self-improvement on all fronts, mental, physical, spiritual. That's what I've always preached to guys. Why? Because you're trying to reach this ideal in a less than ideal world. Is everybody going to be able to have a stay-at-home wife? Obviously not. Are you going to have to navigate some modern dating traps with having a woman that works all the time? Of course. Are there realities like, most people meet somebody they cheat with at work? That's true. You're going to have a relationship that will be more stressful when both of you have to work. You're going to lose a lot of money on childcare. That causes more stress. There's modern relationships in marriage has its own traps that you try to avoid by becoming the ideal so you could go back to a more traditional time. Or what a lot of people are doing is pulling back from the corporate cuck lifestyle and going out into smaller towns and living a more, what could you call it? I guess it would be called luxury farming. You can call it homesteading. You call it whatever it is, where you're raising your own garden, you have your own land, you're pulling back and doing something like having your own business. I don't know, man, selling something, maybe a YouTube channel, maybe you happen to be a good creator, which again is not ideal for most people, or you're, making something from your animal products like soaps or moisturizers, or you're making candles, or you're good with wood. So you have your own custom, to order woodworking business where you're making God knows what for people, right? Like you're artisanal in some way. You are your own business. The other dudes are doing 3D printing, stuff like that. And they're making products, whatever it is. You have to be basically your own man today and pull back away from the cities to get an affordable, more affordable lifestyle, and then figure out how to sustain yourself in that manner. The other shortcut to all that is either you already worked or you got lucky with like a digital business in the world of the internet today, and you do the like digital nomad, passport bro, travel around the world kind of stuff and maximizing cost of living in that sense. But again, that's not the ideal for most people, but I am noticing the pulling back from the city lifestyle.
Today's economy, the trad lifestyle is reserved for only the most prosperous men. But yet the red pill preaches it like it's the majority solution. Pew Research shows in 2022, only 23% of households had the husband as the sole provider of income. That means 77% of women were contributing to household income. Most guys just aren't out here making enough money to support himself, a woman, and kids. And in today's economy, I would say that's pretty understandable. What I don't see the red pill talking about is how a lot of women would love to adopt the traditional lifestyle, but there's just not enough prosperous men to go around. Given an alternative, many women might very well choose to be a housewife. Feminism might be the only movement that can get away with constantly complaining about how oppressive it is to be objectified and then simultaneously objectify themselves. The problem is that this movement wants all the benefits of feminism without any of its consequences. Say you want equality until you realize that means splitting the bills, unclogging the toilet, and having to kill the spider. In modern relationships, it's common for the financial theory of the woman to be everything he makes is ours and everything I make is mine, rather than both partners contributing equally, which is what feminism claims to want to do. There's a book called Sexual Utopia and Power by Roger Devlin that sums this up perfectly. The modern woman wants all the benefits of a traditional marriage, but is unwilling to pay the costs. She wants a man to marry her without her having to marry the man. Some feminists are even demanding that there be quotas for women to be in executive positions, but they never talk about there being quotas for women in bricklaying. It's clear that modern feminism wants all the benefits of something without any of its sacrifice. Let's be very clear. That is not equality. That's privilege.
Oh, wow. Canceled. Gen Z doing its job, huh? At least some of them are awake. There is hope for the future. This is so true, too. Sadly, women who watch this will not let your points soak in and end up calling you a pick-me. Of course, yeah, she's internalized misogyny, clearly. Look at her. She's probably a man anyways. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's really unfortunate, the polarization that's happening and the tribalism, where each side, whatever side you pick, is digging into their own delusion so much on a radical side of it that, it goes in one ear, out the other. Actually, it doesn't even go in the ear anymore. Everybody's got their ears plugged in. They don't even want to hear any criticism of the points of the stand that they've made. It's insane, dude. It's getting worse. Girl, you didn't dress like this for you. Exactly. Yeah. I say this all the time. Just because promiscuity is more socially acceptable for men in general doesn't mean they don't pay the emotional consequences. This guy says, as a guy, I look at guys who slept with hundreds of women as a sick individual. Just saying. 100% agree with this. I'm sick of my female coworkers complaining about their jobs and not going into other jobs, but blaming their problems on their boyfriends, even though they aren't self-aware themselves. Don't get me wrong. I used to be brainwashed this way as well, but I learned from my mistakes, and now I see how hypocritical feminism has become today, as well as making women fit the quote girl power expectations. Instead of supporting ideas and choices other women make, we make braised opinions instead of on looking at more perspectives and learning new things about us as human beings, while also not letting their opinions and judgment define you. Yeah. I told you guys, you notice this hypocrisy under like a fat chick doing TikTok videos and then a fit, beautiful woman doing TikTok videos, and the fat chick has all this fake support and adoration and love. And then if you're a beautiful woman and you're doing something and you have an opinion on something, I used to remember the Tradwives when they came on the scene, and it was one chick was doing simple housework and just recording it and being blessed to stay at home. Just kept it super simple, wasn't really pushing much, and made a video showing her big ass baby, and she looked all healthy, glowing. The baby's the same. And the attacks under her comment section, the internalized misogyny, the putting us back 100 years, the feminism gave you more rights than this, that you're selling yourself short, the wait until he cheats on you, the blah, blah, blah. The negativity is crazy. But you have a fat chick downing Doritos and Pepsi and Diet Cokes and doing dances with her fat jiggling everywhere, and she can't even breathe after 3 seconds. You could hear it on the mic and shit. That is girl boss empowerment, thick queen, all this other crazy shit. The hypocrisy is full on display for everybody to see. This is why I think so many of the younger women are pulling back in general from the entire movement. This one says, I like reading these girl ones. It's an interesting insight. As a girl, I hate it whenever modern feminism is brought up, because there's at least one person in the group who wants to say how oppressed women are, which makes people just jump on that train, and it leads to discussions about unequal pay, objectification, just generally trash talking men for being men. If I say anything adverse to it, I'll be the black sheep of the group. That's why I mostly like to be friends with guys or girls who aren't interested in such topics. Jeez. This is the most based woman on YouTube. Does she have more videos? I liked it. Anyway, thank you whoever recommended this episode. As usual, boys, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.